they may need some, for instance, power from 400 to 500. It shows, yeah, there's consistency. 2018 budget will also add to, it depends on what they do. But at a point, we need to look at, in power sector, how much have we achieved? Once you're able to achieve your critical level of, have a critical level of achievement, you begin to reduce the budget allocated to power. Instead of increasing, you begin to reduce because you have accomplished some of the things that you're supposed to accomplish in the first 2 or 3 years of your budget, of what you budgeted in those years. So yes, it's consistent. But again, I have an issue with not power. Yeah. But what about? I don't know if you have the figure for science and technology. If you have the figure, it'd be nice to know, because in the 2016 budget, they got about 200 or something, a minimum purchase sum. And the science and tech, power cannot function without science and tech if we are serious about it. We need technology to do our power. All the money is being budgeted for power is going to foreign countries. None is being retained here. Our own engineers, what are they doing? Foreigners, we get these things. I'm not saying that, we should not give businesses to foreigners. I'm not saying so. But I'm saying that we need to empower, put the monies in the hands of, that's the only time it will make sense. When Nigerians are in charge, in control, most money is being spent, government is spending, that a lot is being retained within. Because it's only Nigerians that can develop the economy. Foreigners will not be able to do that. They can only assist you. So we need to make a deliberate thing to empower the science and technology so that we can begin to grow in that area. Whatever power sector needs, they liaise with science and tech. Get people to get this equipment for us. And then, instead of importing, we have people. We have our own local manufacturer to use in the power, no matter how crude. Eventually, we will be able to do that. I give you an example of Taiwan. In the 70s and 80s and this thing, Taiwan was known for inferior products, but they didn't mind, because they wanted to grow. They didn't even have textbooks. What did they do? They started bringing books from the US, interpreting and translating to their own language, okay? And then they began to learn and then began to improve on their own thing. And rather than reinventing the wheel, it was a creative imitation they were doing. And today you cannot say of Taiwan, they are being regarded as one of those high-tech countries because they were deliberate. People will laugh at them, made in Taiwan, inferior. They didn't mind, but they were going about, But most the high-tech products being manufactured today, but components come from Taiwan. So this is the thing I'm looking at. Ministry of Science and Tech should be empowered. They should be at the same level with power, because power sector needs science and tech to be able to have a local input. They talk about local content. How can they do local content when even the ministry cannot even have enough budget to empower and do what they're supposed to do?
It's strange that we have almost all the universities in this country have engineering departments.
Yes, but how many of them are equipped? How many? My siblings are read engineering and all that. To change bulb is a problem. Electric bulb, because they've never seen it before.
Well, I sincerely hope that at least they can change bulbs, because I don't think you need to read engineering to change bulbs. But then, people will not be able to, they can't fault what you're saying in terms of investing in science and technology. But looking on the whole, I mean, when you listen to the speeches made yesterday by both the president, the Senate president, and the Speaker of the House of Reps, one of the statements that stood out for me was that of the Senate president, who said, Mr. President, no matter how well-intentioned or, how good your budget proposal is, it remains a proposal. It still has to be worked on by the National Assembly. I guess I'm not quoting him in his exact words, paraphrasing him more or less. But then when you hear that, are you optimistic that we will not see the shenanigans we've seen before in terms of what eventually happens when the budget gets to the National Assembly before it eventually gets to the executive arm of government? Are you confident that this time around we will see a different sort of attendance being given to the budget?
Yeah, I think so. I'm confident that one or two things will happen. One, that the budget for National Assembly will either be increased slightly or be left the way it is. And secondly, that there will be a smooth passage this time around because of the padding issues. I think they must have learned their lessons, and I don't expect to see that, because the other budget, ventured into areas that they didn't have competence, trying to do zero-based budgeting and all that, and that really complicated issues. But this one is just a straightforward budgeting thing that they have done, and I am confident that a whole lot will happen at the National Assembly, and because everybody wants to for us to get out of this present economic woes, and they have agreed to work with the executive, the National Assembly, to make sure that because their constituency also is affected, and again, I also want to see the constituency project also being increased if it's not enough. And from the comments of some members of National Assembly, you can read between the lines what they are thinking. Some of if the budget is they are also interested in being selfish to make sure that they're also comfortable to do their jobs. And that's the one thing I have against having a full-time National Assembly, because it's expensive. You look at the money, 25% of the national budget going to National Assembly, and then they're still complaining that it's not enough. So these are some of the things, and in this thing, all the years, if you watch what has happened over the years, you will see that for as long as you get the interest of the National Assembly, capture it in the budget, within the budget, then they'll be able to, you see, a smooth ride. But contentious issues are always where their own interest is being, affected negatively. But if it's a positive, then you see a smooth ride. In
some ways, as we wind down, let me just read out a quote from the President's speech, and then you give us your final word. As at 30th of September 2016, aggregate revenue inflow was 2.17 trillion naira, or 25% less than prorated projections. Similarly, 3.58 trillion naira had been spent by the same date, that's 30th September 2016, on both recurrent and capital expenditure. Now, if you're looking at 3.58 trillion, that's almost 50%
that's right.
of the entire 2016 budget. So he says that as at 30th of September. Now, if as at 30th of September they spent almost 50%, what do you think will happen in the 2017 budget?
Well, the thing,
seeing that it came up a bit earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that it depends also when the National Assembly is able to appropriate it and the President, assents to it, maybe in March, before final assent. If we get it earlier than March, that'd be a miracle. Okay? But you find that in that one, 25%. So they're even spending more than the receipt, the revenue of 25%, but they have spent 50%. So that's the thing. When I make my comment on budget, this 2017 budget, the actual will determine the growth, the economic impact on the economy, the impact on the lives of Nigerians. But when you don't even have the late President Yar'Adua, when he took over power in 2007, and he said that he saved Nigerian money. And what was the performance implementation of the budget? 28%. Even less than 28%. Before then, it was 28%. So he now clapping that he saved Nigerian money. How do you save when you don't invest? It's not possible. You invest, then you make money to save. But by not implementing the budget, you're saying that you save Nigerian money because you implemented the performance of your budget was only 28%. It's not done. And over the years, we've not been able to achieve more than 30-35% performance. We need to look back and say, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? Have a look at, look at this and then improve on it. Why are we not implementing, having a greater percentage of implementation? In the past, we haven't gone beyond 30% or 35%. Why can't we achieve 40%? Why can't we achieve 50%? What are we doing wrong? What can we do again to make sure we achieve in this 2017 budget and to achieve at least 50% implementation? And that depends on the availability of funds. I don't know how many ministries were able to receive their full allocation for 2016. So these are the things. I go to these government agencies to do my research, to ask questions. How much have you received from the budgeted sum? They can't execute some project because they don't have enough money. Allocation is not there. And it's all dependent on the receipt, revenue from oil and stuff like that. So these are some of the issues. It's not just the proposal. It's the actual implementation. Do they have the funds to do this? So that it will have real impact on, And when I say the private sector being involved, I need to see Nigerian entrepreneurs benefiting from some of these projects being carried out, not just foreigners.
All right. Thank you very much. That's a good place to hang it. Mr. Autin Nweze of the Pan Atlantic University, thank you for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
So, Daily will be back in a moment. Please don't go away.